Cafe racers, cruisers, sport bikes, adventure bikes, baggers, touring bikes. What are all these different styles of motorcycles and who are they for? Let's get into it. Hey up. I love motorcycles. I ride motorcycles all the time. I post videos about motorcycles. I talk about them constantly. And a lot of questions I get about motorcycles are specifically about styles of motorcycles. What are these motorcycles and who are they for? In this video, I'm going to do a very basic overview and breakdown of the different styles of motorcycles that you might run into. When I say the word cruiser, this is most likely the type of motorcycle that somebody thinks of when they hear the word motorcycle. Think of motorcycle brands like Harley Davidson and Indian. Cruisers are low to the ground, allowing you to have a bend in your knee and flat foot the motorcycle. Generally, the riding position of a cruiser is going to be upright with your feet directly underneath you on mid controls or slightly forward with forward controls. These motorcycles are built for comfort, leisure, and style. They are really meant to cruise around and have fun on, hence the name cruiser. Now, there are many subcategories of cruisers, and I'm not going to touch on every subcategory of motorcycle, but these are the ones you're probably going to run into the most. The standard cruiser. Generally, these are small to mid-sized cruisers with mid controls or forward controls. They come in many different designs and engine sizes, anything from a 300cc up to a 1200cc. Pretty much a middle-of-the-road motorcycle. Motorcycles in this realm of standard cruisers include bikes like the Honda Rebel series, the Harley Davidson Softail, and the Indian Scout series. Another subcategory of cruisers could be baggers and touring motorcycles. Baggers and touring motorcycles are much larger framed motorcycles with larger engines that allow you to carry a lot of stuff on you and go long distance. Motorcycles in this category could include the Indian Chieftain, the Harley Davidson Street Glide or Ultra Glide, the Kawasaki Vaquero? I think that's what it is. Basically any larger cruiser style motorcycle that has bags on it that's meant to go long distance. The last subcategory of cruising motorcycles I'm going to go over are bobbers and choppers. Bobbers and choppers are different motorcycles, but they can kind of overlap in a couple different ways. Motorcycles are not necessarily manufactured to be a bobber or a chopper, but most of the time they are built to be either a bobber or a chopper. Remember that TV show from back in the day, Orange County Choppers? Those are choppers. A lot of the times they are much lower to the ground without a front brake, very loud and extremely customized. A bobber, on the other hand, is a much more broad term for a motorcycle that doesn't have a rear fender. A lot of people use motorcycles like the Honda Rebel series, the Indian Scout Bobber, or the Harley Davidson Street Bob to make a bobber build. Another subcategory of cruisers could be considered sport cruisers. Sport cruisers are meant to be more performance-based and less leisurely riding. They are meant to handle better and go faster than the average cruiser, but they're not sport bikes. They're just very fast cruisers. Some models that you could consider a sport cruiser would include the Harley Lowrider S, the Chieftain Sport, and the Kawasaki Vulcan S. These bikes can really get moving, and with some modifications, they can really keep up with certain sport bikes, but they are not sport bikes. The average sport bike is probably going to be faster than the average sport cruiser, as long as it's right off the lot and doesn't have a bunch of modifications. If you're watching this video, chances are you either ride motorcycles or you're thinking about riding motorcycles. If that's you, then you should check out Cardo systems. Cardo has a variety of Bluetooth devices that work with virtually any helmet. You can pair them with your friend's Cardo units so you can communicate while you're on group rides. You can pair it to your phone so your wife can call you to get milk on the way home, or listen to some music on a long ride. Check out cardosystems.com and use the code SUSHI for 10% off.
プロモコードは Sushi です。
Now, the next category of motorcycle, I personally would probably not say is a subcategory of cruiser, but some might say that, and I wouldn't argue with them. This category is called the cafe racer. Cafe racer refers to a style of motorcycles that I believe was created in the 1960s. Some people believe that a cafe racer is a built motorcycle, so you can't just buy a cafe racer, you have to build it based on a certain frame. Other people believe if it looks like a cafe racer, they would consider it a cafe racer. I am not a motorcycle purist, so if it looks like one of these motorcycles I'm going to list, I would probably call it a cafe racer. I would consider motorcycles that look like these Royal Enfields or the Triumph Bonneville series a cafe racer. Certain distinguishing factors about these would be mid controls or controls that are slightly farther back to give you a tucked in position, as well as a completely flat seat all the way back to the passenger. Moving on to a completely different style motorcycle, sport bikes. Sport bikes are sporty motorcycles that are meant to go fast. They go fast in a straight line, they go fast while turning around windy roads, they are just very fast motorcycles. That's what they're meant to do. Generally, sport bikes have a pretty aggressive forward lean, and your feet might sit behind you to allow you to tuck in and be much more aerodynamic. They are usually pretty lightweight bikes, and they go very, very fast. The average sport bike is going to go much faster than the average cruiser, even a sport cruiser. Sport bikes include models like the Ninja series or the GSXR series. Sport bikes are pretty easy to distinguish between other styles of motorcycles. A subcategory of sport motorcycles could be considered naked bikes. Naked bikes are generally a less aggressive sport bike. They will probably still have a slightly forward-leaning riding position, but much less aggressive than a sport bike. And naked bikes generally do not have any sort of large fairing or windscreen that's going to protect you from the wind, hence the name naked bike. They are very fast and easy to maneuver. Some motorcycles in this category include the NK series by CF Moto, the Kawasaki Z650, or the Honda CB1000R. Moving on to a new style, street legal dirt bikes. Street legal dirt bikes are exactly what they sound like. They are dirt bikes that are also legal to ride on the street. Dirt bikes have a very upright seating position, and they are very tall because they are meant to go off-roading and go over jumps and do a bunch of crazy stuff. Dirt bikes are a sporty style motorcycle, but they are not a sport bike. Some dirt bikes can go pretty quick, but they are absolutely not going to keep up with a sport bike. They're also not super comfortable riding at highway speeds, but that doesn't mean that they can't do it, especially larger ones. If a dirt bike and a sport bike had a baby, you'd probably call it an adventure bike or a dual sport. I often hear these names used interchangeably. I will sometimes hear somebody call a specific bike an adventure bike and somebody else might call it a dual sport, but I personally feel like dual sports and adventure bikes are slightly different, even though they do kind of the same thing. Adventure bikes and dual sport bikes are both meant to go on-roading and off-roading. The difference, in my opinion, is that a dual sport is meant to go more off-roading than on-roading, and an adventure bike is meant to be a street bike that can also go off-roading. Depending on who you ask, an adventure bike or a dual sport bike is the best of both worlds. It can go on-roading and it can go off-roading. Or it's the worst of both worlds. It's not that great on-road and it's also not that great off-road. It really depends on the person and it depends on the model of motorcycle. I personally love adventure bikes, which is why my daily rider is an Ibex 800S by CF Moto. Dual sports and adventure bikes generally are pretty tall and have an upright seating position with mid controls. Because dual sports are better fit for off-roading than on-roading, you'll find that dual sports are probably a little bit closer to a dirt bike than they are to a street bike. An adventure bike is much better suited for on-road riding and can also do some pretty basic to intermediate off-road riding. Besides that, I think the biggest difference between an adventure bike and a dual sport is that an adventure bike is going to have a lot more comfort features. A lot of adventure bikes come with features like cruise control, an adjustable windscreen, navigation built into a large LCD screen, a larger passenger seat, luggage racks in the back or saddlebag attachments, heated grips, heated seats, basically everything that you would need to go on a very long motorcycle ride. A lot of YouTubers who travel around the world on a motorcycle will either use a dual sport or an adventure bike. Okay, that is a pretty brief overview of a couple different style motorcycles and some subcategories that you might find with them. If there's something that you think I should have added, please let me know in the comments, and keep in mind that I did not go over every subcategory and you might not agree with how I'm selecting certain categories, but if I did every single subcategory of motorcycle based on different types, it would probably be like a 3-hour-long video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, please consider liking, subscribing, commenting, all this stuff. I really appreciate it. Bye!